Before we get into today's episode, don't forget to sign up to the book and the VIP newsletter at thehighestandbestuse.com. For the book, you can get that at Amazon, Chapters, Barnes & Noble, all of these places in paperback, ebook, hardcover, and of course now the Audible version as well. So grab the book, sign up to the VIP newsletter, thehighestandbestuse.com, and now to today's episode.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Michelle.
And the highest and best use of our business is designing custom homes.
Thanks for tuning into the Highest and Best Use Real Estate Podcast, where we talk techniques to optimize your land, structure, skill sets, and time, as well as the highest and best use principles to make your business more profitable, productive, and efficient. I'm your host, Ryan Carr, reminding you that good deals are found, great deals are created, and I'm super excited about this today. We have Ryan and Michelle Thompson on the show. Ryan is a past coaching client of mine, investor for 10 years, developer, super awesome guy, small business owner, and he is married to Michelle. Michelle is a content creator, and she is also the lead designer at Gray Isle Design, of which both of them operate. So, guys, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Excited.
This is fun.
We're pumped, yeah.
This is fun. The Thompson Teardown. I'm fired up to talk about this today.
Yes.
So you guys have created a beautiful webisode on your principal residence, and that's what we're here to talk about today, is your trials and tribulations of what's happening there, and I'm looking forward to it. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Ryan Thompson. I'm a real estate investor. I've been investing for 10 years. That's when the journey started. Mm-hmm. And I love it.
I'm Michelle. I'm Ryan's wife, and I've obviously been on that journey with him, and I do content creation for a living, and now have also pivoted more into the design space based on our experiences and our past projects, and now obviously our own home.
Awesome. Your website's beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
I love the holy guacamole. Who hashtagged the holy guacamole?
I did. And you know what? I can't give away the exact reason why, because it does play on our street name.
Okay.
But that is kind of where that Mexican theme and the holy guacamole came from. So it's a play on our street name, which is fun.
I love it. So let's kick this off. You guys bought a house a number of years ago. Why don't we start there, and then we'll evolve the story into where you're at today.
Okay. We bought this house number of years ago. Michelle's always, been on board with kind of our long-term plan, which was, eventually we'll work up to that forever home, right? And I think, a lot of probably other real estate investors sometimes are on the same path too, right? Where they start out somewhere and the goal is, okay, eventually we'll work it up. So that was a journey that we were on. And I told her, we're couple flips away from getting there. Mm-hmm. And ultimately we got there a little bit quicker than that. So
it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. So we got there, and I look at properties every day, and I had saw one that had come up and mentioned it to her, and I was like, I'll probably go over asking, like, this is a huge lot, and I know Michelle, one of her requirements is that we have a huge lot so we could have a pool and some other things, right? But in Toronto it's tough, right? And needless to say, it checked off all the boxes. Mm-hmm. We went, checked it out, made an offer.
Same day.
Yeah, that was the thing, is you gotta know what you're looking for and be able to act quickly, right? So
in this market, it's nuts.
So we did, and long story short, we got the property.
Nice.
And I think, to your point, Ryan, like, good opportunities are created. Like, again, this was Ryan scouting these out daily, finding this, kind of watching how it was playing out. We saw that it sat for a while. It was at like kind of the height of that first COVID wave. So I think there was a little bit of anxiety with buyers, but yeah, we loved it. We went in, same day offer, no conditions. We were living in our last project at that point that we had just finished up. So yeah, just kind of worked out.
Cool. And this was on market or off market?
It was on market.
Yep.
It was on market. Michelle says it sat for a while.
36 days.
Really?
It was
36 days.
What sits for 36 days in Toronto?
Nothing.
It was waiting for you.
I honestly believe it was meant to be ours. Yeah.
So what actually happened is I saw it, and I remember seeing it like the first day that it came out, and I was like, and I didn't even say anything to Michelle because I was like, I'm looking at the lot, I'm looking at the specs, I'm looking at the list price, I'm like, it's gonna go over asking. There's gonna be like a bidding war.
Yeah.
And it just sat there, and I still didn't say anything. And then I remember driving by it because I was like, you know what? Maybe something's wrong with the lot. Mm-hmm. The lot size says it's this gigantic lot. Maybe something's off here, right?
Yeah.
Drove by. I'm like, backs onto the forest. It's huge. Okay, call my agent.
What's up?
See this. Call my agent. Told Michelle, call the agent. We saw it the next day.
No way.
And
Yeah.
it turned out that actually the situation was some family infighting. Kids were selling parents' house, and not everybody was on the same page.
No way.
So that's kind of what happened there.
Yeah.
I had a similar story. I turned down a side street one time in Durham, like in Oshawa, and I had to get a sandwich and change my socks. And I parked. This is a true story. It was a dead end. I parked, and I looked up, and there was a house for sale. And it had sat on the market for a little bit. I called the realtor. We had an offer in. Boom, bought it that day. Just because I had to change my socks. So in the same way,
Amazing.
like your guys' story is the same. Like you just it was there waiting for you, and I felt that same way.
But you also do have to be looking, right? Because you could have been changing your socks, seen the for sale sign, and made no action.
Right.
So I think again, it always goes back to like you have to be ready to go.
How does somebody prepare
How does somebody prepare for
taking that action?
Like
you guys obviously had to do a few steps before you said, okay, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think for knowing what you want is a big one.
Huge.
Because if you don't know what you want, you're just your tires are gonna keep spinning. I know I have some friends too where, they're looking for that home, and it's like, I mean, for us it was very simple. We knew exactly where we wanted to be. Yeah. So as far as
like
the
geographically,
geographically, we knew like exactly the part of Toronto we wanted to be. So that was easy. We knew that area. Then step 2 was lot size.
Yeah.
I had discussed with Michelle that, our forever home was probably going to be in between 40 and 50. 50 frontage I'm talking. Because the 50 frontages, prices were kind of just skyrocketing. So I was like, we're going to be, between that 40. Because you can kind of get a deal on, a 50 lot you can subdivide. So the prices were going up, but you can't subdivide anything less. So I was like, we'll probably end up somewhere in the 40s. So we knew anything 40 plus. We ended up with an 80 lot, but I mean,
it's a unicorn. It's a unicorn.
Yeah. And one of the things was it was actually listed, I think, as a 70 or 75, but then when we did the survey, it came back as an 80. So we got a little extra there too. But so knowing your lot size, knowing the area you want to be in, and then your must-haves, I guess.
Yeah, what was on your list?
I mean, must-haves for me was space for a yard even after the build or any additions that we would be doing for sure. In an area with good schools, we have kids, so that's a big consideration. Close to highways for both of our work is a big consideration. And then, of course, also, I guess, like, a huge piece as well is having your finances in order, right? Knowing what you can afford.
What can we buy?
Totally. And I think, to Ryan's point, we have a lot of friends or, just people who ask us these things, and having those few things in place narrows it down incredibly, which is so helpful. Like, we have friends who don't even know which area they want to be in, right? It's like you're just going to be looking all over the place, and you're always going to have that hesitancy to make the move because you're unsure. If you're like hyper focused, I think you'll feel more comfortable. I know we have felt more comfortable being ready to go.
Yeah. Isn't it funny when you say, I want to buy a certain type of car and it has to be red? All of a sudden you see all of those red vehicles. Like you want a red pickup truck or whatever. You see all the red pickup trucks on the highway because you're just so dialed.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think too, being dialed into those areas and keeping an eye on them helps because, for a while I was like, I'd really love to be in the beaches. You're never going to get that size frontage, right? It's like then I would have had to concede on
an 80
something.
foot lot on the beaches.
Right. It's like more like an 18-foot lot, right? So it's like I had to concede on that, and we really, earlier on in our journey kind of went into the area that we are now in. So I think figuring those things out is hugely helpful.
Awesome. Yeah. What was after that? So you guys built your list, then you went shopping, you found the place. Next steps.
And then so the next steps was, hiring an architect. Once we found the place, we're here, we've closed. Okay, this is the next step. This is where we messed up. We messed up big time.
I mean, we did and we didn't. There's some things that you can't forecast even when doing your due diligence. Yeah,
but I would say that and in the show we kind of get into some of the issues we had with the architects. And the one thing that I would say if we were doing this all over again is that when it comes to finding an architect, what I would look for is a firm where you're dealing directly with the principal of that firm.
That's a very good point.
So not a firm where I don't even really care the size. They could have 20 people, but if you're not dealing directly with the principal of that firm, then it's probably not the firm for you because there's too many layers, there's too many things that can go wrong, which is, I think, ultimately what we experienced. So I would prefer going forward. And I mean, and I work with other architects,
Yeah.
and we tried to pick one that made sense for the scope of project.
Yeah.
But all the other architects that I do work with, that's what they are. They're either a one-man show or a small firm, and I think you're gonna get a better result if you go that route. And I think that's where we messed up.
Did you guys move into this at all?
Yes.
So you moved temporary, knowing that it was coming down, or some variation thereof?
Yeah. So we moved in for about a year and a half, and reason being we were living in it while we had our architect plans being made, but also we are in a nature conservatory protected area.
Yep.
So we had like other steps that we had to do. So
which means beautiful lot, but pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Totally. So it took some time, right? Urban forestry, this, that, and the other. So we were in it for a bit. But I do think that's a hot tip from Ryan, is that, yes, it would be helpful. I mean, sometimes going with the biggest firm is not always the best. Your plans are being passed around to sometimes more junior staff or just like technical staff. The feedback is getting kind of, broken telephone. Things are not getting looked at as closely as maybe they would as a smaller shop or someone where you're working with that person and they are the ones making your revision.
Whoa. Before we get back to the episode, don't forget to sign up to the VIP newsletter at thehighestandbestuse.com. You get great tips and tricks there, completely free. Also, don't forget to grab a copy of the book at thehighestandbestuse.com, Amazon Chapters, Barnes & Noble, all of these places. That's where you can get it. You can get it in paperback, ebook, hardcover edition, as well as the Audible version. Were they taking you through to permit stage as well, or just the design side?
They did take us through to permit stage, and that was one of the considerations when we were looking. We wanted a firm that had experience doing that because we knew this lot was going to be met with some issues, and that we were also going to have to get some variances at committees of adjustment and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that approach, like, kind of your one-stop shop, but there are people who do a really good job of just presenting themselves at the committees of adjustments and taking your plans too.
Yes.
Right?
It's a skill.
It is,
Right.
absolutely. Absolutely.
How do you delicately outlay your whatever you're planning on doing with this lot such that the neighbors aren't upset and the city is satisfied and the homeowners are happy? Like, it's a thing.
And knowing how to prep for that, right?
Yeah.
Like being able to collect the information that shows precedence, which was like a big piece in our particular build. But yeah, it definitely would have been nice if it was just the one person. And, that's something that you can ask when you're shortlisting and doing your work to find the architect that works for you, right?
Yeah, because I mean, the function of the architect for us was really just to execute Michelle's vision. Right? Like Michelle designed the whole house, told them literally everything, every material. So they just literally had to execute.
Yeah.
Get your pencil going.
We
Let's do
literally,
this.
I have other friends who are building and they're like, oh, like you didn't get any like 3D renderings or this and that. And I'm like, no, because we didn't do any design services through them, right? Like they didn't present us any materials or how this was going to look or mock any of that up. It really was like floor plan. Mm-hmm. And then technical stuff, obviously like the structural engineering stuff, and then again getting those permits. Mm-hmm. So it was a little bit different.
I had a really cool conversation with a guy about 2 months ago, and he was planning jazz bars for casinos.
Cool.
And it was his opinion that architect, you sit over there. When we have a building code question, we'll call you. Until then, the designer takes over.
And
and that's very similar to what you're saying.
I appreciate that. And I also get that, like, for example, in our meetings, because we didn't go with a package that included that, there was never a designer or anyone for their firm present. And they're not thinking from that lens, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they're not even thinking about function or is that going to look symmetrical? Like, they're not really thinking about that at all.
Yeah.
So you have to be on it for those things, right?
It's like, the design that drives the value of the property.
1,000%.
Yeah. You can build a horrible looking house that's like brand new, but it's ugly, and people are like, well, it's ugly.
And we see that all the time too. We're like literally our thing is the worst possible thing that can happen is you redo an entire house and it looks like a spec home from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's the nightmare, right? Nobody wants that. No one wants to walk in and have to redo everything. So, yeah.
So
there's a couple like that.
But it was you asked about us, like, were we living in the home, and that was actually, I think, one of the advantages to living in the home, and especially from a design perspective with Michelle, is that she was able, like, the way the sun rises and sets,
it
right?
matters.
Window placements.
Big time.
So like us living in the home was I mean, beyond the fact we had to do it from a cost perspective, like holding costs for a year and a half would be crazy. She was able to like design like the perfect house just based on knowing the way that the sun orients and where to place windows and everything. So,
and just how we would want to use the property. Like, we actually had a suggestion that was instantly shot down from the TRCA saying, why don't you change the orientation of your house? And we were like, absolutely not. That just knocks off all of these things that we wanted. It would like render our yard useless. It wouldn't look as nice from the street. Like, it was just a hard no across the board.
The TRCA could be a whole different episode, because some of the things like they
TRCA
say,
is the Conservation Authority.
yeah,
for
that's
people who don't know.
Toronto Region
Yes.
Conservation Authority. And like they would say stuff that would like directly contradict what the city would want. So like, oh, change the orientation of your house, but then say, oh, but we'll support you. Like when you go to like minor variance, knowing that like the city's going to be like, yeah, no, we're never going to approve this, but the TRCA says we should do it, and it's just like they're just all at odds, right? Like it's craziness.
Going
TRCA.
back to what we chatted about earlier, that's like a body, a governing body that, to your point, a lot of people don't know about, and you know, that's something that if you find your dream lot like us, and it does, you know, back onto a forest or the like, chances are you are going to have to deal with them. So that is something you also want to make sure you're well versed on and have an understanding on, because it's additional time, it's additional cost, it's a whole other thing, right? So,
and the way you know is like if you're searching for a property, so you're on this journey that we're on, and you're like, okay, I want to be in this area. When you find that area, you can always search a property's address to see if it's in the TRCA, Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, if it's in another conservation authority. Like, this information is online without you having to pay a fee. Sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, pay us like $100 and we'll like give you a report. No. You can find out if it's in that area first.
Yeah. What would fall under that? Woodlots, streams and rivers, creek beds, lakes.
Yeah,
like anything like this?
All of that, but sometimes the actual like jurisdiction spreads further than you would think. Like a lot of our area is considered a river valley corridor, even though many of the houses aren't like ours and don't back on directly. So if you're even in like the vicinity of a big park or forest, or just check. That's my tip. Just check.
My gosh, yeah. What kind of cost do you figured added? Dollars, like real dollars. If you take the same lot and a non-floodplain, or not floodplain, but like EP versus EP, what was the cost difference?
I would say what has to be factored into the cost difference is the time, right? So you're looking at your holding costs being increased, because if we didn't have to deal with the Conservation Authority, then, you know, we're probably looking at 6 months for permitting, and is realistic, right? Whereas it took a year and a half. Right?
It was like an additional 9 months, I would say.
So, yeah, just because, you know, they're doing their reports and they're saying, you know, they're going to have to get back to you. And again, me and Michelle are people, we're in the space. This is our project, our forever home. So we're very much involved. So, you know, the Conservation Authority would tell the architects, oh, yeah, you know, I know we're supposed to get back to you. Like, we promised we'd get back to you in a week. But, you know, somebody's away and it's the holidays. And so, you know, we'll try our best in the new year. And then I have to call them and say, hey, you know what? No, we'd appreciate if you can keep with your timelines that you've given us, and issue such report or such feedback within the time. And ultimately, I got it and had to keep, and that happened multiple times, because the architect's just going to say, okay, yeah, whenever you guys get it to me,
right,
you know, no problem. Whereas we got a timeline. We're trying to keep this project.
Yeah, we're paying dollars over here,
100%.
Right? And it's not being understood. So that's. Yeah. That compounded on every step of the way is what really just increases the project, because it's just more chefs in the kitchen, right? Like,
if it wasn't for Ryan, like, taking a lot of that on himself, which again is included in like your cost that you're paying to your architect, but they would be, okay, it was delayed a couple weeks, we'll be in touch in 2. Ryan, no, like he's on a first name basis with our arborist. He's a good guy. So he made those calls himself to like not even expedite, but keep to the timelines we were given. So that's hugely
helpful. But to answer your question, in terms of studies, permitting to the Conservation Authority, not including the holding costs, I would say it was probably about an extra $6,000-$7,000, because, you know, we had to get a slope stability study. We would have had to get the arborist report anyways. Yeah. But then you got to pay TRCA for all these fees every time they're submitting.
Even to the committees, I think it was like $650 for them to just send their report to your committee meeting to be reviewed.
Every step is a fee.
Yeah.
So where'd you go from here? So you guys got through permit process, you got your variances, you're like, oh, finally we got it. Now what?
Well, now we got to start construction.
Yeah.
So,
can you describe the lot, by the way?
Yeah.
So you mentioned the lot size, but just like in terms, you mentioned slope study in your last thing there. So like, what do we look like?
So we have where it's a corner lot, and so on one side of the property it elevates the one side of the property where we have a neighbor, that neighbor is up on a hill. So they're
Probably like what, 30 feet?
yeah, maybe more. Like they're
high,
they're
yeah.
elevated. So one side you have that elevation of the neighbor, and at the rear of the property where it's the forest and ravine, that's a gradual slope as well. So pretty much two sides of the property are sloped, but we have to get the slope stability for the one side where the neighboring was, because that was the more aggressive.
Any retaining walls
aggressive
needed
slope.
or anything like that?
So none were needed, but we are putting some.
Oh.
That just makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Given the we had a very scary incident when we were waiting on our approval. So there was a tree in our backyard, which our arborist had come out and said, we're gonna, like, this tree has to go, it's dead. It was a willow tree.
It was a beautiful tree. It was massive.
And so we're like, okay, it's gonna come down. And I remember like yesterday, I'm sitting there eating breakfast, Michelle's in the kitchen, and I hear and I feel boom.
It was crazy.
I look up and I see like a tree on its side.
Oh my God.
And I like get up and I like go to the window, and the entire tree, like, this is a massive tree. This tree's probably like, this tree's over 3-4 stories tall.
It's
my God.
huge.
Right? It's huge.
Huge. It took them over a week to chop it and get rid of it.
It's
Like, it was
covering
huge.
our entire backyard. Okay. And it's the space where when we're in the backyard, that's where we are.
Yeah.
Right. It's literally fell perfectly in that gap. So, it just fell and still there. And I remember we had to write a letter to the forestry, Toronto Forestry, being like, hey, that tree that we were going to knock down, well, it failed and still there. So like, we don't have to do that anymore. So that just went to show me, like, even with like the retaining walls and stuff, like, I feel comfortable. I feel more secure knowing we're going to be there and our family's going to go there if I put some retaining walls so that we don't deal with any, erosion hazards or things after time. So we're putting the retaining walls along that neighboring wall just so we don't have anything. But that was...
They're kind of pretty too. Like when they're done nicely with taste.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, again, given we're going to be there a long time and we're going to be investing, other things in the yard like landscaping, pools, etc., you just want to make sure that that's kind of safe and protected. And
So construction-wise, you guys built. Tell me about the process.
So the process for the construction really began way before we actually started the construction. So, when we were in the planning stage, that's really when a lot of the work and a lot of like brain power went in to making sure everything was kind of included in your plans. But as far as the construction went, like, I was going to be the GC. I was going to be building. Certain trades I had reached out to, some of them a year prior to before we even started, just, kind of tendering, getting some numbers on some things that I wasn't sure about. But then we were also in a climate where things were changing too, right? So some of the numbers I got, like the lumber, throw that quote in the garbage, because that went up like 2-3 times.
Isn't it wild how lumber did that and then came back?
Yeah.
It's not back to where it was, but it's a lot better than what it was.
It is a lot better. Yeah. But we were seeing, like, across the board, not even just the hikes, but people not willing to lock in and honor something, even with a deposit, just because of how quickly everything has been going up. It's like, this is valid for like a couple days, and otherwise, like, no, if you call next month, it's probably going to be higher. So so we're getting ready to build, and what we had did, which was smart, is because we were in that climate where costs were just increasing, we locked in and paid and did deposits before we even had broken ground. Right? So windows were already paid for, ordered.
Like, well, I hope they fit when they get here.
God. Honestly, that worked out so well, though. And, like, what a save.
It saved us thousands of dollars doing that, because every 3 months the prices were going up. They're sending out notices. With our demolition guy, if you remember, the fuel costs were going up crazy. He was starting to send emails saying, hey, like, if you got a quote, like, in whatever time, I'm going to start adding a fuel surcharge. There was
even some, like, design aspects, like, we knew the spec of the fireplace we would need, kind of thing. I bought that. We weren't even framed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, but that was something that was going up like by $1,500 every other month.
Jeez.
Right. So it was like, and on top of that, taking a ton of time to get in. Right. Like we have, again, other friends in the industry, other friends building who weren't as proactive as Ryan, and God bless him for that.
God bless you.
Yeah. God bless Ryan. He's the best. And then we're waiting on stuff, right? Like we're actually halted because their windows hadn't come in. Like
Right.
we were of the mindset, I would rather have them earlier, even in an instance where we're paying for someone to store them a monthly fee or whatever, versus being held up because we didn't have them in our possession.
It's like pay it on the carrying cost side and everybody's upset because you can't move forward.
Yes.
Or pay it in storage and at least you have the stuff.
Exactly. Same with appliances,
Yeah.
right? Like appliances, oh my gosh, like I know friends who have been living in houses without working kitchens because nothing's here. So we were really on top of that.
Yeah. So that was the one thing is we weren't waiting on anything. Everything was waiting on us.
Yeah.
And Ryan is also a master scheduler. Like he will be modest, but I'm talking like he, like one trade would be finishing and like within hours the next guys are coming. Like he
Hurry up and pull out. We got another guy that needs your parking spot.
literally seamless execution, which is a skill in itself, right? So that really helped expedite things. I mean, aside from one big holdup, which was a result of an architect error that I won't really get into, but if you watch the webisodes, you will hear more about it. Little teaser
Spicy.
there, little
Spicy.
teaser. But aside from that, which set us back about 3 months very early on in our excavation process and foundation, aside from that, we actually have had a really smooth experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which has been
wasn't
great.
able to make that 3 to 4 month back, but
No.
aside from that, it's started with the excavation, the demolition. We had our daughter out there for demo day, so she saw like the excavator crushing the house.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's
Loves
funny
it.
how
She
like
loves it.
I don't know, kids just she knows trucks now. She knows the excavator. She knows the dump truck. She knows the concrete truck. Like just by being there and seeing stuff, like it's so cool how you just see how she like, just kind of knows that. Yeah.
Yeah.
She has her little measuring tape, and now when
She
she
has
comes
a
to the
level.
house, like,
Yeah?
Oh, big time.
Nice.
Big time.
Does she walk around and be like, that stud's a little out?
Yes.
Like,
Yes. That's
it on
exactly
all
what
the
she does. She
windows.
puts it, okay, straight, check.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh, wow.
She's also very critical of Ryan. Yeah. If the site's not clean, she's cracking the whip.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
She's tough.
A clean site is a safe site. Safe is
she's
efficient.
right. She's right. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sweeping. The girls are coming by today. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hear about this for days. So
Yeah.
no, she's it's been good. It's been a good, smooth process. Really, aside from that, I mean, I have my chart. I have literally every step of the construction process, right? So that's why I'm able to kind of schedule it so good, because I have each step, how many days it should take. Obviously, in our situation, I was always adding to those numbers, but
Contingency.
if I add to those
Jesus.
numbers, then it bumps everything down,
Yeah.
right? So that's another thing, is I was always in communication with guys who are next up,
huge,
right?
yeah.
So that they know, because that's what they want. They're not only working on my project, right? They got other stuff going on. So the more I'm able to keep in communication with them, it just makes a smoother experience just for everybody.
If you think about that,
right?
there's got to be at least 15, 20, 25 trades that come into a house, right?
sure.
Overall, the kitchen guy, the roofer, the whatever. And like if the foundation guy's messed up by 2 weeks, if everybody got messed up by 2 weeks, the guy that's supposed to come in to put the plug outlets in is like, he's off by 6 months,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like way down the road.
Absolutely.
And the biggest thing too, Michelle always hears me talk about it.
I know
It's
exactly what you're going to say. I know exactly what you're going to say.
What am I
right
gonna
now.
say?
He's going to say, and that's why in some instances, when you can have a team that does multiple things in sequence, it's helpful, because then they can't blame it on each other. Oh no, that wasn't our drywalling, that was the framers. That's why that wall is crooked. Is that what you're going to say?
That wasn't what I was gonna say.
Damn it! Thought that was for sure it.
That is a pro tip though,
Yeah.
right? That is a pro tip. If you're
Pro tip.
able to do that, it saves you. But I was gonna say, never get caught flat-footed,
Oh my god, yeah,
Oh.
that's his other thing.
right? You can never get caught flat-footed. So that was another thing, is I always have multiple trades.
He does.
Because
For
you
the same
can't-
job.
Yeah, for the same job. Because if you're here relying on one guy, you may be setting yourself up. You're gonna be get caught flat-footed. It's a football thing, right? Like,
and again, we have like good relationships with a few of our guys because they've done several of our projects now and that sort of thing. But even still, like, it is a business, right? Like, if they get a bigger job or they're far out somewhere working on a job and then can't make it, we always want to make sure that we have someone else lined up as well. Just so, to your point, we're not being held up and having that kind of domino effect where then everyone is behind.
Any issues with that? Having 2 plumbers on one job, for example?
Having 2 plumbers?
Yeah, like you're saying, if you've got backup people for backup people.
Yeah, I've never had 2 plumbers on one job. It's funny you bring up the example of a plumber because
we rehearsed this. No.
My plumber on this project was very challenging.
It's very diplomatic of you to say. Challenging.
Yeah, he's very challenging. So with him specifically, there was a couple times where I might have had to go to another plumber, but I was okay with that, right? Like, I was prepared for that because I'm not gonna get held hostage on this project because, of certain trades that I'm working with, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's a business for everybody. And, that was, one of the things.
And that actually leads me to another thought. If we're talking about people embarking on these types of projects, and obviously there are different payment structures and all that, we always like to make sure that there is a portion of your payment reserved to when the job is done. Because again, you just hear all these kinds of horror stories, people just completely disappearing or being like, oh yeah, I'm going to come back. They never do, or stuff's not done properly. And then you kind of have nothing to leverage, as bad as that sounds, right?
It's true.
So, obviously, like, you always pay deposits, and there are some cases where you need to pay more if, materials are being brought. All that kind of stuff is fair, but kind of protecting yourself and making sure that you have something to ensure your job is completed and to your liking.
That's why they do a 10% holdback on construction financing.
Yeah.
It's because people sometimes don't finish and do what they say.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's good that you guys know enough to say, hey, this is how we're going to structure it up front, because people don't do what they say.
100%. Yeah.
And no, that's and there's multiple examples on this house where either people we've been able to make sure people come back and finish everything to a T because there's remaining funds that need to be paid, because it's and even on a project like ours, it's it's a larger project. It's not just like a kitchen reno, but you could argue it's a more desirable job, but still, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's true. It doesn't matter if it's a kitchen reno, if it's a bathroom reno, or a whole custom home.
Yeah.
As you guys are up and out of the ground, I want to hear about where you're at currently. But like, as you did that and you went from paper phase to like real life in the flesh, was there anything that changed where you're like, that didn't translate the way that I thought?
There's only one instance where, and honestly, now at the phase we're at, I'm okay with it. But there was one instance where basically like our living area is open concept, like living, kitchen, dining. And again, because the architects aren't thinking about it from this standpoint, but they did like a little cantilevered bump out where our dining room, dining area is. And from the outside, really beautiful, adds a nice little bit of dimension. From the exterior elevation, looks great on paper. But inside, if the whole house had been bumped out to that same level, it would have given me a little more alignment in my kitchen placement. How my pendants hung aligned with the windows on either side of the range. And I said to Ryan one day, I'm like, I look back and I wish it had all been just level, because it would have let me kind of shift everything over. But now that our kitchen is actually installed and the finishes are in and that kind of thing, I find it a little bit charming that it's a little interesting that it's not all just like straight. And maybe that's just my mind tricking myself to not having regret. I don't know. But that would be like the one thing that I was like, but otherwise I feel like, at least for me.
I don't know if those were your exact words though.
What do you mean?
Right, when you with the kitchen not being aligned.
What,
like
I
that.
cursed? Is that what you're doing? Yeah, in the moment I was like,
I was more aggressive about it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was like, it was like.
What took precedence in your design? Was it the interior layout and the function, or the exterior street facade coming first?
Interior.
Which was
interior big time.
Yeah.
I mean, the street facade, obviously we still wanted it to be beautiful, and we had certain must-haves there as far as what I wanted like the color scheme to look like and some of the materials. But I always say, like, I love the exterior so much more than I anticipated, because it really wasn't as much of a focus as we played on the interior.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, again, we have like clients, like we had a client who actually reached out to us recently just for their exterior, just to help with the colors and the materials out there. So it's a big focus. I totally appreciate and respect that. But for us, and this being our own home, I just knew that like the inside is where we're going to be.
Yeah.
That's just my personal philosophy. And so that's really what took precedence. But of course we cared about stuff like, you know, making sure outside, like everything was like aligned and looked proper. We don't just have like random windows astray and that sort of thing. But
astray.
Yeah. But like, it was more like, you know, when it was time for the shingles, and actually our roof shingles are one of my favorite things in our whole house. I love them so much. It's a weird thing. But that was kind of something that when the time came, I selected them. It wasn't something that I pre-selected and I had mocked up the mood boards for like the rest of the house. You know what I mean? So interior was definitely the focus.
And I guess because it's the corner lot too. I mean, like interior versus exterior, and you guys had talked about pools and landscaping.
Yes.
Like all of that really ties in because you see it.
Oh,
from all,
big time.
You know, an interior lot is very different than a corner lot where you've got a very prominent status on the street.
And factoring into how you're going to best use that space, right? Again, we talk about best use. You like that? See
Wow.
what I did there?
Nice plug. I like that.
I know. It's like, again, being a corner lot and that it's a dead-end street, we actually do have like a decent amount of side yards. So even that was a consideration.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm still kind of mulling it over. I've said to Ryan, like, maybe we could do some really cool, like, boxwoods for like a vegetable garden or something. And, you know, we have a really nice covered porch coming off the house that we excavated under to be able to use for pool storage and, you know, all the chemicals and heater and all that. So all of those thoughts went into play. And yeah, like what trees are we going to put down the side for privacy and that sort of thing. So.
And how long do those take to grow? Because you could put a maple tree there,
long time.
right? It takes a long time.
Yeah.
You could put, is it a pear tree that grows really fast?
Is it? I would love pears.
I think it's a pear tree. But I'm not 100% sure.
I'm gonna look into this.
Don't quote me on that. It might be pear tree. But put in fruit trees. They're fun.
I would love fruit trees.
The problem that we have,
the wildlife.
And it's a great, like, living in this house, I've seen wildlife that I've never seen
so cool.
in my life.
So cool.
Right?
You hunting it like Elmer Fudd on your back deck?
I would never let him hunt. Oh my God, never.
We have everything. So that's the problem with, I think, some of these fruits and trees, and if we plant, like, there's the deer, which we're cool with the deer. Like,
yeah,
we
I
like
love
the deer.
Yeah.
Our yard doesn't have a fence. It's only ever had a fence along the one property line where the neighbor is. So the deers were literally like, I remember one day I was cooking in the backyard on a barbecue, and I just hear dum dum, and I look up and there's two deer running directly towards me. I just froze. I didn't even know what to do. I just froze, and they got like maybe within 10 feet. And then just pivoted and went down.
You're like, here's a cheeseburger.
Yeah,
I was just
literally.
like, so that was like cool, right? But no, we got to put some fences. But that, needless to say, like, we have a lot of wildlife, so I just don't know how that would.
Yeah, we have to do some research there. We have a good friend of ours who is in landscaping, and I plan to ask her about how we could protect that because I would love to garden. I'd love to get some fruit trees out there. Also, because like kids eat a ton of fruit.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
I think our kids
I think it's all kids. Like, that's why Costco exists. Like, they just like a pint
You
of
should take a whole bowl of strawberries and just eat it all, like one sitting. Just
it'd be great if we could grow some.
You know, it's super fun. Seasonally, you can go out, and it's like a family thing,
it's
right?
so cool.
You go out, you get the picker, and you take it off the tree, whether it's apples, pears, whatever.
I would literally love nothing more. I would love some avocados, maybe some lemons. I don't know if our climate is conducive to this, but yes. I'm all for fruit trees.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Another best use. See, maybe I start selling my fruit. Maybe I have a farmer's market.
There you
I
go.
don't know. I'm thinking big.
Some of the stuff on your website. So let's talk about Grey Isle.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff on your website is really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
There was and I might butcher this, but it was like a 14-block townhouse or 14-unit street townhouse, something like this. That was really neat.
That's one of Ryan's projects that he's working on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
That's in Port Colborne.
Yep.
So that's an area where I'm doing some development. It's been going very well. Almost should be getting permits this year. Development does take quite a bit of time, but that is an exciting project there. And I really actually enjoy working with people at Port Colborne, enjoy working with the city. I was a part of the Affordable Housing Committee. Recently, they reached out to me, so that was cool just to be able to give some input and, you know, some of the suggestions I made they actually took. So
I remember you saying on our coaching calls, you're like, these guys are really good to work with.
Yeah.
which is such a nice reprieve because your experience in Toronto was the opposite.
Yeah.
It was very challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I can call them and I will get a call back or get an email back, and and it's not to say they're not busy, right? But they're a place that wants development. They need housing, so they act accordingly. Whereas in Toronto, it's like the opposite, like you said, right? They're just like, build less here, like.
Was this your 3 lots? That we were talking about years ago?
So it was 5 lots.
5 lots.
It was 5 lots,
Yeah.
and then we did a land severance.
Awesome.
So with Bill 23,
I know.
I had to avoid the site plan, because it's considered 2 lots now, right? With 7 on each. So that was nice because site plan want more studies. So now we can just get on with it, right?
Wicked. So back to principal residence. Where are you guys at in construction now?
We're almost finished, so we're going to be moving in at the end of the month.
Yeah?
Yes, we are, which is very, very exciting. So we tore down last January, so it's been about 14 months. And we're ready to move in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you must be so pumped.
I am so excited.
To get all your stuff in one spot again.
Oh my gosh. I literally want to pitch a tent and just sleep in there. Yeah, it really has been years because we've done a few flips where then we lived in the projects, kept looking, moved again, same thing. So it's really nice that we'll be able to get settled.
Oh, cool.
But a Ryan Carr exclusive. You're hearing this first.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. There will be season 2.
Of
Thompson Teardown.
No way.
Yes.
We got 2 more episodes left in this season.
Yes.
But there's just so much more to show. So we're gonna bring it back.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's gonna be
for
fun.
season 2.
It's very well produced.
Yes.
It's entertaining to watch. Sometimes you're like, okay, I'll watch their thing. But no, when I watch your stuff, it's good. It's entertaining. It pulls you in.
That's our hope. And honestly, huge credit to Ripple Media Group. They're our videography team. They're amazing. But we have a lot of fun doing it. We just try to think from the lens of the viewer, what will be fun to watch, but also informative because obviously we always want to be helping out anybody else who's interested in the space. And so thank you. We love that feedback.
Yeah. Is there a way that people can work with you based on what you guys have done?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we actually created source lists for this project, which in essence are linked shoppable lists of all of the house or different spaces in the house. So for example, if someone is watching the show and they're like, I'm obsessed with that kitchen, you can purchase a source list that has every single thing in the kitchen, from the name of the countertop to the paint to the hardware we used to the drapes to whatever. Anything in there you can click and shop. So there's that. And then also through the house, because I mock up everything for us for mood boards, I've now been doing some e-design clients for one room designs, which is essentially just taking a room that needs work, whether that's a full remodel or just cosmetic, and just kind of putting together a mood board of how that can be changed. So with some of the more hardscape stuff like the paint and that sort of thing, but then also again that shopping list of furniture, decor, all of that.
That's so awesome. That would save somebody so much time.
Oh, honestly,
and money, because Michelle, she has a very elevated look. She always says everything she likes is just expensive, right? She'll see if you show her 3 things, she'll pick out the one she likes that just happens to be the most expensive, right? For whatever reason. But what she's really good at doing is finding, some of these elevated looks, but instead of spending $3,000, she can find it for a much more affordable price. I know she did that with some of our kitchen hardware.
Yeah.
Now she has a supplier where he's, making these things by hand, and
he's in Morocco. He was
right?
he was FaceTiming me from
Moroccan
the warehouse.
kitchen hardware, very reasonably priced.
And again, but it wasn't a compromise on the material. They're solid brass, right? But it's so yes, those lists, and in general, everything I do try to be savvy, not at the compromise of quality, but yes, I definitely try to be savvy. And I also do just like to introduce people, who aren't in the space, to maybe some retailers they wouldn't think about. You don't only have to go to a Wayfair or an IKEA. There are tons of other retailers, small shops, Etsy, whatever the case may be, that you can just kind of have way more choice and options.
That's where you get the unique stuff too.
Totally.
If you find an antique retailer, for example.
Yes, totally.
Every antique retailer has something different.
We love a salvage yard.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah. Even actually, I was just painting doors yesterday, and I was sharing all my stories for my office, and they were a Facebook Marketplace find.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And probably at a discount.
Huge discount. Oh my gosh. I think we got both those doors for like a couple $100 and they're like 9 feet tall.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So yeah, that's part of the fun, right? Is
any favorite rooms in the house? Like, what do you guys, if you had to gravitate to one specific room, what would it be?
you go.
So I like the whole house.
I hope so.
But if the court's not done yet, that would be my spot. But the mechanical room is actually where I like to kind of...
You hang out there?
I do. I like to hang out there. I like to
so
look.
creepy.
It's like the hub of the house. I've never had a mechanical room like this, right? We got a lot going on in there.
It's cool.
We got
It is cool.
a whole plumbing manifold. We got a gray water system because we have water recycling. So that's there. We have our boiler system for our heated floors, the driveway. Like, there's a lot going on in there.
It's cool.
Heated driveway too?
Yeah, heated driveway. So, we're in Canada. You got to build.
Yeah.
Got to build for Canada. And this is the thing. Like, sometimes people don't know this. And this is what, like, one of the things we try to show on the show too is that, like, people will think, like, okay, well, if you're already doing in-floor in your house, to add the heated driveway, your boiler system, maybe you have to upsize the capacity a little bit, but, like, it's already there.
It's
so
not
do
by
it now,
much, yeah.
Right? Like, we have it roughed in. Our driveway is not complete yet, but it's all roughed in. The pipes are running right to the manifold in our garage. Like, just little stuff like that. Whereas, like, people be like, oh, I don't know. It's like, no.
Out of this whole custom house that I have beautifully designed, and Ryan says the mechanical room, though.
Yeah.
Can we take that in?
Is it
Like-
okay? Is it one like where all of the wires are like symmetrical and everything is very very properly done?
It's beautiful. Like, it is cool to look at, but like the mechanical room, I mean,
yeah, I like that.
that's like Amityville horror. Like, if anybody else but my
it doesn't
husband
look
said
like
that
that.
to
It
me,
doesn't
I'd be
look like
insulted. I'd be like, wow, I did nothing for you.
I got these nice vinyl panels on the wall
my
with, like,
gosh.
the reflective. Like, it looks sick.
It does look good. It does look good.
What's your favorite room?
My favorite is definitely the great room. You know what? You'd think it would be the kitchen, and I do adore our kitchen, and it's all kind of, I guess, one room, but we have this fireplace wall with these arched built-ins, and we have these big black totally open like accordion bifolds out to the back, and you just see all the trees, and there's so much natural light, and it just makes me happy to be in there.
That's
I don't
awesome.
know. It's just like, and I just know, like, that's where we're gonna like hang out, like we reinforced the walls for like my Christmas tree. Like, it's gonna be that kind of space.
That's planning ahead, right?
Yes, totally. So yeah, it's really cool, and it gave us some headaches with that focal wall because of the height of it. It's vaulted, so it's like 20-foot ceilings.
Nice.
Yeah, we
Nice.
have like big windows everywhere, so we had to account for that with how we would kind of map it out. But it's so worth it. Like, now when you walk in there, it's just it's a special room.
I'm with Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. Can you imagine all of that I just said, and this guy said the mechanical room?
Yeah, man, we're gonna hang out with the plumbing.
Oh.
We'll have you come by, and I'll show you the mechanical room.
Yes.
I'll be like, yeah, he was right. This is great.
And then I'll say, then you can stay down there, and I'll lock you both in the basement.
Total cost. What do you think you guys will spend on this whole build?
So as of right now, we're over 1.3. Part of that is we had that major architect error fumble, which jacked it up.
What was the dollar count on that?
Over 300,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it wasn't a small thing. That was
$300,000.
Yeah, no, it was a huge chunk of budget.
When you look at what we had to
it was huge.
redesign with our helical piers and
so without that, we would have been at around $1 million, which was what we had projected. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And how big would this house be?
It's 5,000 square feet.
Does that include a finished basement?
Yes, it does. And we did like some cost saves, like we did like in the basement, the flooring is polished concrete, right?
But that wasn't a cost save. Like, we have the wood if we wanted to lay it. Like, I actually just wanted that look, but
no,
it isn't.
We did want it, but it does save you a little bit more than if you did our same hardwood floor that we did throughout the house in the basement. That's not a cost save.
No,
right?
that's not a cost
But
save.
it is also cheaper to just finish your basement at the same time you're doing the whole house, right? To come back after the fact, you're gonna get
you're in another mess, more dumpsters, all that stuff.
Yeah,
totally.
So it wasn't.
Maybe access becomes more of an issue if fences are up and stuff. Like, that's been another benefit to this lot.
And what we did too in the basement is we have a bedroom down there. We have a washroom. We have the mechanical room, and then the rest is just open space.
Yep.
Because we don't know what the future holds, and I rack my brain always trying to like future-proof the house and think about, you know, but I don't know how.
Where are we going to put the elevator?
Right?
Yeah.
So we just don't know how it's going to develop. So we just kind of left it open space, and you know, we'll see if we want to build walls or build rooms. There's an option there, but
so you finish the exterior walls, finish the bathroom, and then everything is just open.
And we do obviously have like, okay, like, you know, we anticipate maybe a TV will go there, so like outlets are there, and we anticipate we're going to do like a mini bar over here kind of situation. So we have the plumbing and that sort of thing, but otherwise it is pretty blank slate.
It makes such a big difference to plan ahead for that stuff, because like while you're running the plumbing and the floors are open, right, an extra couple runs of ABS is very minimal. Let's just say $1,000 by the time the person puts it in, right? But if you have to go back and tear up the floors and ruin the polished concrete and re-concrete and like, oh my God.
It's a nightmare.
It's totally different.
And honestly, I think that is where Ryan and I have really racked our brain. Like, he talks about future proofing. Mm-hmm. It's like, what are things that function wise are going to make our lives easier and more enjoyable, and also like, again, beautiful, of course, like aesthetically pleasing, but like even something like, we don't have dogs yet, but we have a dog shower in our mudroom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I know we're going to want dogs.
That's right.
Right? So again, and to rip all of our beautiful tile up in there after the fact, reframe it out, run plumbing, it would be a nightmare. I'd probably be like, screw it, we're not going to do it.
No
you
dogs.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or no dog shower.
Or
Anyways.
dirty dogs. They'll just be muddy. We're just going to have muddy dogs everywhere. But yeah, it's so things like that, I think, is where we really put our brain power with this house. And I think that like it shows, like Ryan touched on again, like water recycling, that's super important to us, like reducing our footprint where we can. Our roof is solar panel ready, like things like that we just wanted to plan for.
Yeah,
that's good. In terms of what you actually bought the house for, what, like basically the lot, the teardown lot, I mean, what was that worth?
1.2.
1.2. So if you're 1.3 plus 1.2, you're in for 2.5. What do you think the house will be worth when it's done? How do you appraise it?
It's
Michelle has
listen, Ryan and I look at comps all the time. We do have an appraiser coming by. We've put together kind of like the specs for that person to keep in mind when the time comes. Honestly, if I'm being modest,
it'll be over $4 million.
Yeah,
for sure.
For easily over
sure.
four.
Awesome. For sure.
Easily. Like if you ask me my actual number.
We don't need to get to your actual. You're close. Okay?
Lower than that.
We'll just say over
again,
$4 million.
We see other comps and I'm like, boo earns.
We'll
but
just say
yes.
over $4 million.
Yeah.
We do benefit from, and you know, the area of South Etobicoke we're in, we're kind of, it just so worked out we're in the.
It's desirable for sure.
It's in the higher price little pocket, so that is a benefit
for sure
for us as well.
For
which
sure.
You know, if we were further south, maybe not so much, right? Because you know this. So
a lot of factors.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that benefit the lot size, what the bird backs on, obviously the beautiful house Michelle designed.
To build a house on an ugly lot versus to build that same house on a beautiful lot, the value is substantially different.
Oh,
but the house is
100%.
still the same, and I think a lot of people miss that. Like what you guys have built here, I haven't seen it, but by the sounds of it, the lot is fantastic, right?
Yeah. It's one.
But like if you built that on an
kind.
interior lot, it'd still be fantastic, but it'd be very
not
different.
the same.
It's a different feel.
And you know what? If you did build it on an interior lot, let's just say you probably also wouldn't have done as many windows and things like that.
True.
Just because of privacy and all these other factors that ultimately do make a huge difference, right, in the feel of the home. So
we could be in our bathroom and the only person seeing us is like the deers in the forest.
They're back for the cheeseburgers.
That's it. Now the deers that we feed our barbecue to. But no, it does make a huge difference. And I mean, we've turned down opportunities on properties that we have gone to see for projects because I'm like, people are not going to like the street. Or 100% that's a factor. Like Ryan never really sees those kinds of things. It's me who's like, a family is not going to like that, or this, it's going to be the nicest house by like leaps and leaps and leaps and bounds with many years for the rest to catch up. Like you're really going to have to stay there to see that value build, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, 100% the lot does matter. The area does matter, I think. And yeah.
Do you think in terms of the way that you guys have planned this, you'll be here long term? Or
Forever.
is this like,
this is
this is forever.
That's why I had so many days just racking my brain, because that's literally what I've had conversations with Michelle. Well, okay, if the girls grow up and like, are they gonna then want to move to the basement? Like, they're three and one, right? Like,
but think about them looking back on whether it's this podcast or the Thompson Teardown show or all like this whole process, the blueprints. Think about them looking back and going, "Oh, this is what Mom and Dad did."
It's going to be so cool. That's a main reason we did want to document this one a little bit differently than we have past projects. But again, to your point about the lot, that is the reason that I say with certainty that it is our forever home. Because I do believe that, like, if given the opportunity, I would probably get excited to build another house for us, not just a project, but for us.
I hear a cottage in the making.
And literally, and you know what, even my mother-in-law said to me once, she's like, "Oh, come on though, but everyone has a price." I'm like, it's not about that. It's about the fact that I will never get this lot in this area again. If we were people who were open to moving further out or that sort of thing, 100% I'd say, oh, we'll probably do it again for ourselves. But the lot is really special, and you know, I've even toyed with maybe if it was a water facing lot, but then you get like gnats and things. I'm just
you're back dealing with the good friends at the TRCA.
That's what I mean. I'm just really happy with that for us, and I think, you know, 100% we're gonna obviously always continue to do more projects for resale, but for us, like, this one is it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, from the side of the mic, I can tell your spunk and your pizzazz and your sincerity towards the property and towards each other too. I mean, I think what you guys have created with this property sounds completely beautiful, and I really look forward to seeing it one day. But you know, from me to you, thank you guys both for being here. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having us, and we can't wait to have you over.
Where can people find out more about you guys?
You can head to greyaisledesign.com. You can also head to thompsonteardown.com. That'll link you to our YouTube, which has the webisodes, but also a ton of other videos. My personal Instagram, where I share a ton on the house, is INTL_peach. You'll see a lot there.
Yeah, that's where you want to go, to her Instagram.
That's where I'm painting the doors behind the scenes. But yeah. So.
I love it. Awesome. Ryan and Michelle, thank you so much for being here. For anybody that wants to check out, we'll link up there. For anybody that wants to see,
going out on a bang.
My God. Ryan and Michelle Thompson, thank you so much for being here. For anybody who wants to see what they're doing, we'll link it all up in the show notes. Don't forget to check out the book at thehighestandbestuse.com. I'm your host, Ryan Carr, reminding you that good deals are found, great deals are created. Like, share, follow, subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode.